Hello and welcome to Trackmania Awards 2017. Today is December 15 and it's another episode, another award and another guest. My guest today, he's been sort of known for being one of the best casters in the scene. He casted the Trackmania Pro League with Spam. It was a sick cast. And he's from Scotland. You might know who it is. It's SCOSTMAN. Hello SCOSTMAN, how are you?
Hello there, I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me on. Almost made me blush there with that intro. Too kind to me.
I'll try my best. Is there anything else you want to add? Because might not everybody know who we are, but most people do.
Yeah, well, I've been playing since late 2015. I've been in A&E, a new era, for all my time. Started streaming in about June, July, something like that. Yeah, focusing casting stuff. So I guess you'll see me in like TMPL cast, stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I like to focus on, kind of serious style of Trackmania.
Yeah, and it's good to have someone covering that scene as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the award today is the fastest player of 2017. Mm-hmm. How do you view the award, like, overall?
Yeah, so basically with this award, we're looking at the players who, throughout the kind of different tournaments, obviously, in 2017 we've had to the end of the XS tournament, CPS and things like that. We're looking at who you would have normally seen as being the best, like maybe not match performance, that's not what we're looking at. Who was normally around the kind of top times, the deady 1s, 2s, 3s, that's what we're looking at today. Who you would expect to see at the top on each of these maps.
Yeah, who's like the fastest player.
Yeah, exactly. So so we've got 4 nominees for this one.
And who is the first nominee and why?
So the first nominee we would hit off with maybe an obvious pick for some. It's been in a few of these kind of editions before the TM Awards. It's Kronos, of course, the French player, formerly of Against All Authority, now in E-Corp. So Kronos we first of all picked because he was a very reliable top performer. He was always active throughout these tournaments. He was always driving a lot of maps. If he wasn't at the world record time, he was always like second, third, or top 5 or something like that for pretty much every map he trained. He held himself really, really highly with that. Has one of the highest counts of world records online throughout all the tournaments out of all the players, and almost becoming a kind of benchmark for online maps, so to speak, with fantastic times throughout the full year. So a kind of incredible consistency straight from January, coming out of XS tournament. He had some world records in like Trackstagram, Transparency, back in XS, all the way until we're even looking at Trackmania Open, where he held world record in a few of those maps. Actually, the only tournament he missed out on online was TMPL. It's the only tournament he didn't have a world record on.
Oh yeah, that's a fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you said, Kronos is a force to be reckoned with. He's a name that you always see on the dead list.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's not there, you kind of know that he's not gonna play the event, or he's not going for it.
Yeah, it's with Kronos, it's not a question of if he's not in the top 5, you're thinking, right, Kronos isn't driving this map. You don't think Kronos is too slow, you know? Like, if Kronos is training a map, you know he's going to be at the top.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's a fantastic player, like I said. I mean, he's been without, like, throughout the past years, people would recognise him as always being at the top. So, I mean, he certainly deserves a place in the nominees, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else you want to add for Kronos before we go to the next nominee?
Not particularly for Kronos, no. Yeah, he missed out in TMPL, unfortunately, and Gaming Winterfest, which we'll get onto in a second for offline events. But other than that, say Kronos, exceptionally solid player, and great start to representatives of this list.
Yeah, for sure, a worthy nomination. Yeah, that brings us over to the second nominee. Who is it and why?
So the second nominee will go for PACO from Team Expert, the British player. So PACO, I would say, is he's a different kind of style to put Kronos in. How I would say he's one of the fastest players of the year. PACO doesn't have as many world records. He's not had as much time, at least as far as I'm aware, to be training a lot of these maps. Of course, he wasn't playing the TMPL playoff, so he's not been participating as much in as we would like to see. from a player of his, but again, when you see someone like PAC training, you know he's showing up, and you know you expect to see world records from him. PAC's one of the few players, I would say, in our scene at the moment that's capable of driving world records in matches. We've seen one in a final against Planet Key Dynamics. That was, I can't remember exactly what tournament that was, but of course, I mean,
the Access, I think.
Yeah, I think it might have been Excess. Yeah, exactly. And of course, I mean, as you would expect from a reigning world champion, of course, back in 2016 he was a Mania Planet World Cup champion, but he's always held himself for an incredible pace. Through kind of when Expert were going through a short slump, he was always the kind of bright spark, so to speak, always lighting up the Deadly Mania records with top times again. I mean, he's kind of slowed down a bit, not necessarily as in he's a slower player, he's just not been putting in as much time to the maps as I've seen, but certainly, as I said, when he does, you notice that he's got incredible times. He's the fastest by quite some margin over the players. You see some other players that might get world records, but it's by, you know, few hundreds or something like that, where PAC you expect to extend the gap just a little bit further when he properly does put in the time and effort for it. So of course an incredible pace from PAC and incredible consistency again throughout the year, and one of the few players I would say with one of the highest top ends to say capable of driving such times in match, which you really don't often see from these kind of players, but certainly one that's capable.
Yeah, when he goes for a world record like before a match, I think he will get it, but he's kind of training to get more consistent. Yeah.
I suppose it certainly worked out for him as well.
Yeah.
He's certainly one of the most consistent and fast players we have, but yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe just focusing more maps, or maybe he's got less time, so he's only focusing like, you know, kind of semi-final maps, final maps, just to be like, you know, the X factor for his team, which is certainly not a bad thing. Just means we see a bit less of him, but when we do see him, it's to devastating effect, so to speak.
Yeah.
He's always in contention for the top times for sure.
Yeah, so once again, a worthy nomination. Is there anything else you want to add?
Not particularly, no.
And that brings us over to the third nominee. Who is it and why?
So the third nominee is one who you might not have seen as recently. So it is Kappa of Planet Key Dynamics, the Czech player. So the reason we chose Kappa is online. He hasn't he hasn't been training a lot online back when he was playing. Unfortunately, recently we received the news after Gamers Assembly that did decide to retire from the game. But he still deserves a mention in this list. I've got because he's got some kind of sick statistics going over, especially offline maps. You've seen he had quite a lot of success offline through GA and Gaming Winterfest and things like that. I mean, online, we're only looking at, I think it was one world record back in Excess tournament when Planet Key Dynamics were making a deep run. So online, we've not seen a lot from him. We've seen obviously a few top threes, but we really noticed Kappa's top level when he was putting a lot of effort in for Gaming Winterfest and Gamers Assembly. When you look at out of 10 maps over the total of the two events, he holds world records on 8 out of 10 of them, which is a disgusting statistic. So, I mean, when you take into account the other kind of players that were going to that event, I mean, they're certainly no slouches. Some of them are even on this list as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, 8 out of 10 world records is an incredible accomplishment on such a high level. It's only unfortunate, I would say, that we didn't get to see more of him throughout the rest of the year. Perhaps I would have loved to see him on TMPL if he'd have managed to bump up a few more records in there, but I mean, he actually held all of the Gaming Winterfest world records, and he was only beaten on 2 maps on Gamers Assembly, which I believe he still had the top 3 on as well, with Kronos being one of the players who managed to steal out one of the world records on there. So, I mean, well have not seen as long a stretch of Kappa. He definitely deserves a mention on this list just due to the sheer power we've seen of him on the offline maps. It's certainly something to behold in matches, and as well with some of the times he was managing. They were incredible times.
Yeah, the quantity might not have been so high, but the quality for sure is incredibly high.
Exactly, yeah. Quality was certainly there for Kappa. Exactly. I mean, for some of these, some of the records and some of the, like for example, when you're looking at your kind of week 3, week 4 CPS times, they might have not had a lot of effort put into them, since, you know, players aren't as motivated, or they're just trying to reach the end to get to the playoffs or something like that. But Gamers Assembly, Gaming Winterfest are offline things. That's the highest level you're realistically going to get. So
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't have a kind of world championships to kind of compete at here. But I mean, when it comes to the closest thing we had to that, Kappa certainly showed why he deserves to be known as one of the fastest players we've had in the scene, and that certainly showed with his performances he had there as well. So definitely a deserving nominee for it, and hopefully we get to see a bit more of him. Hopefully we see a return, perhaps, if that's on the cards.
Yeah, hopefully he gets nominated for Player of the Year, no fastest player of 2018 as well.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see him back, maybe for GA again. Who knows?
Yeah. Anything you want to add before we move on to the next?
Not for Kappa, no.
Yeah, we have only one spot left. Who is the last nomination and why?
So a final spot, not to disappoint anyone who might not be involved, but is the three-time world champion Carl Jr. of Team, formerly of Team Expert, actually recently dropped out of the team for his own reasons. But Carl, I mean, it's kind of hard to say about Carl what people don't already know, but we'll kind of be brief on it. Carl, well, he might not be as much active now. When Carl comes to play, like he's a very dominant player, both on the track and when you're looking at the Dedimanias, of course. It's again one of those situations with Kronos. When you don't see Carl in the world records, you know it's because he's not trained. Like Carl is easily fast enough for pretty much a top 3 time and near enough any map you could name. He's shown certainly versatility going into other styles of tournaments, but of course we'll stick to the tech side of things here. But I mean, of course, a very stellar performance in the TMPL maps, holding a few world records there, and as well a kind of player you really was reserved for team tournaments until the later stages. He was the X factor for his team. They brought him out when they really needed him for the extra firepower. He was the one to push them over the line, so to speak, and certainly picking up 3 world records in the final map pack of the XS tournament just at the very start of the year shows that, you know, when he shows up and he puts in a lot of time on these maps, he can certainly light up the field, so to speak. Give all of the other players, of course, on our lineups today a run for their money, and if not, completely blow them out of the water almost. Only unfortunate thing I would say for Carl is he's of course not got as much time now, but I mean, even with the times he's getting with less training than we're used to seeing from him, it goes to show how much talent he has, of course, and why he deserves a place on this list. As again, you know, even for example, I spoke to Carl before GA and he was saying he only had a week to train for the maps, whereas not GA, sorry, TMPL, only had a week to train for those maps, and you know, after a week he's already, like, you know, pretty much all maps top 5, which is a really incredible accomplishment when you kind of take into account how long it might take some of the people who will be listening to this, how long it will take to, you know, train some matches, you know what I mean? Like it's really, really not an easy thing to do. And Carl makes it look easy. He does. He makes it look simple, but I suppose that just goes to show how incredible a player we have, and certainly shows us why he managed to reach 3 world championships, wins of course, and certainly a few runner-ups and a few thirds there. He's certainly shown how he earned those titles year after year, despite him not having enough time.
Yeah, that's true. And once again, it's like quality beats quantity. Once he step up, he's a force to be reckoned with. Yeah,
exactly. It just takes Carl having the time to play, of course. When he has the time to play, he's an incredible player. I mean, even with a smaller amount of training than some other players might be used to doing, he's still getting incredible times. And Carl, a dedicated Carl, you know, has got time to train, is almost unbeatable. So
and you know that he will get the world record if he really puts his mind into it.
Yeah, exactly. If he's properly motivated and he properly puts the time onto, there's, like, you know, you can count one the players that will manage to challenge him, and certainly capable of pretty much any world record he'll put his mind to.
That's true. Any final words for the 3 times world champion?
Not for the 3 times world champion, no. The 3-time world champion.
Yeah, that was it for the 4 nominations. I think it's 4 strong nominees. It's up to each and every one who they will pick. I think you can make an argument for each and every one.
Yeah.
And do you have any final words regarding this?
Yeah, well, I guess it just depends on how people look at it. Do they look for people who have been in the records all throughout the year, or do they look at the kind of people who have had kind of short bursts, so to speak? So it will be interesting to see how people vote. I'll certainly be keeping track of it myself, and I'll be eager to see who ends up on top.
Yeah, that's true. It's a kind of a funny category because I don't have any clear vision of who is going to win this. Because, as you said, it's up to how people view this category.
Yeah, I can imagine a few fan favourites coming in there, maybe a bit of bias coming in from some people, but when you properly break it down and you look at who would properly be, the fastest times of the year, it's really hard, as you say, to put a person to it. There's just so many candidates, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many factors you can take into account. Of course, there's even certainly some other players you could take into consideration, some that have very closely missed out on getting a nominee, but certainly should feel in no way aggrieved by not getting a nomination. Certainly that they are capable, just maybe some people just haven't done as many maps, or just not been as much of a recognition. It was as well a bit of an issue doing this category because, of course, with Mania Planet 4 update midway through TMM, it kind of messed up a lot of the Deddy Manias.
Yeah, that's true.
So, we managed to get it. I think we've got a really good representative list of who was the best throughout this year, I would say.
Yeah, for sure, for worthy nominations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I would say so. I picked them, of course.
That's a quality symbol right there.
Yeah, exactly. Signed by Scotsman, sealed quality. Exactly.
So yeah, people remember to go to Twitter to vote. Who is your favorite? You have 3 days to vote. After that, you can't complain. If you don't vote, you can't complain. So yeah, it was fun, Scotsman. You have any final words before we close the show?
Not at all. It's my first time doing this kind of thing. It was a pleasure. I hope you guys at least agree with the picks I've done, and I'm interested to see if anyone makes any arguments as to why other people should have been involved. But yeah, pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on.
It's been a pleasure for me as well. Yeah, that's it for today. I will be back tomorrow with a new guest, a new award, and 4 new nominations. Bye.
Bye.